Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be getting started here with my 5.3, my Junkyard Iron Block 5.3. The main thing I want to do on this thing right now is go ahead and test the compression. However, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've tinkered on one of these, or since I've tinkered on like a early 2000s GM truck. But I believe that the starter has to go bolted into the bell housing. Obviously here the engine is on an engine stand, so there is no bell housing to bolt a starter onto. So how do we compression test the motor without a starter? Now there is a way to compression test an engine without actually making the engine crank itself via the starter and the flywheel. You essentially just crank the engine by hand. Of course, we're not going to get the same high compression readings as we would if we actually crank the engine via the flywheel, but we still can test the compression of each cylinder and get an idea of what condition each cylinder is in. So yeah, for those that don't know how to do a compression test when the engine is up and out of the vehicle like this, I'll show you guys how to do that today. We're not going to disassemble the engine all the way down to the block today. However, we might be doing that probably soon. But today we're just going to remove a couple things that we're not going to need at all. And so clean it up a little bit, make it look a little better, compression test the cylinders, and we'll get started on it. Alright guys, we're back and we have a good amount of stuff removed off of the engine. Right now I have a breaker bar on the crankshaft pulley and I took out all the spark plugs, and so we're ready to start compression testing. So let me show you guys that right now. So all the plugs are over here. This truck had some AC Delcos in it. They're not super nice. They're kind of burnt already. I mean, I guess they could be reusable, but I'm most likely just going to put new NGKs in here. Here is a pile of all the stuff I removed. This is a tensioner for like the secondary belt that we aren't going to need. Here is the AC compressor bracket, fan clutch, which we may or may not reuse, but I don't think so. We removed the tubes for the EGR that go mounted right here. One side goes into this exhaust manifold and then goes routed into the intake manifold, and then we took off all the other like miscellaneous fuel lines and connectors and wire harness pieces that we're not going to need. So most of all this can go in the trash. So now let me show you guys how I do a compression test while only cranking the engine by hand. Okay, it's going to be a little hard to show you guys, but here is the compression tester. All the air is bled out, so there's no air in it right now. Now what we're going to do is turn this breaker bar right here. We're going to turn it clockwise, and we're going to try to get cylinder 1 on the top dead center for the compression stroke. And for those that don't know, the compression stroke and the top dead center is when the piston is all the way up as it'll go and the exhaust and intake valves are closed. Now obviously me just cranking this by hand is not going to be the same amount of force as if I was cranking the engine with the starter. However, my arm still is strong enough to create a good amount of compression within the cylinder. So on a regular compression test where you're cranking the vehicle, a good compression reading for a cylinder would be anywhere from 90 psi to about 125 psi. That's normally like the green area that tells you that a cylinder is good and it's sealing well and it's compressing well. Now since we're cranking the engine by hand, I don't expect to get those same kind of numbers, but again, we will be able to create a good amount of compression, and we will at least be able to see if the cylinder is going to, one, produce compression, and if it's going to hold it. Because if one of these cylinders did happen to have something like a chipped valve or like a bent pickup tube to where it's not letting the valve seat correctly or on time, or not sit but rather close on time, but you guys know what I mean. But if any of these cylinders have anything wrong and they cannot hold compression for whatever reason, we will find out right now by doing this test. Now it's hard to get it to where the cylinder is precisely closed, to where both valves are closed and there's almost no compression leaking out, but it looks like I just about got it. The needle got all the way up to 50 psi, and it'll slowly start to climb down, which is normal. but as you can see, it is somewhat holding the compression, which is a good sign. If we were to have some sort of timing issue or something wrong within the cylinder, it wouldn't hold the compression at all. It might produce it, but it wouldn't hold it. So as you can see, pretty much bled all the way out, which is normal, but we at least know that this cylinder is producing compression and it is holding it. And so if we were to do this compression test the normal way by cranking the engine via the starter and the flywheel, this cylinder, which is cylinder 1, would most likely produce probably somewhere around between 90 and 120 psi, but I would say probably somewhere around 100 psi, which is your average healthy cylinder compression reading. Now this is a higher mileage 5.3. It has 157,000 miles, so I wouldn't expect this engine to give us any compression reading over 120 psi. But if I were to do the compression test the regular way, I think it would give me anywhere between 100 and 120 psi. But now we just got to check and see if the rest of the cylinders are going to produce around the same amount of compression, and if they're all going to hold the compression as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay guys, so every other cylinder pretty much gave us a similar reading, so now we have verified the healthiness of this engine. And so now I can go ahead and continue prepping the engine. I'm probably going to throw on some new NGK plugs on it, like I said, before I actually put the engine up in the car. Thankfully, I don't think I'm going to have to spend any money on coils or on boots, because these boots actually look damn near brand new, if I'm being honest. As you guys can see, they actually look like they're in pretty good condition, and even the coils as well look like they are also in pretty good condition, so I probably won't have to spend any money there. Not sure if I'm going to stick with this truck intake manifold. I know that if I switch to like the Camaro or I think the Corvette or Camaro, it's one of those, but if I switch to one of those style intake manifolds, the intake manifold will sit a lot lower than this big tall truck intake manifold. But I've also heard online that the truck intake manifolds actually do work pretty well when it comes to airflow. So who knows, I might stick with this intake manifold right here. However, I doubt that the engine or that this intake manifold will be able to fit in the engine bay without rubbing into the hood of the car. At this point, we can also go ahead and probably remove the exhaust manifold, since I doubt I'm going to use them. I'm most likely going to be switching to long tube headers. I'm not sure which long tubes I want to run on this 5.3, but if you guys have any recommendations, drop them down in the comments below. And then of course we'll get deep into it and do ARP head studs and Corvette, I believe LS9 head gaskets, which seem to work pretty good when it comes to running boost on a 5.3. At least that's what I've heard, so don't shoot the messenger if that's incorrect. So slowly but surely we're getting this little 5.3 prepped to be put into my Mustang right here. But before we buy all that fancy internal stuff for the engine, what I actually need to do first, and what I'm probably going to try to order this week, are some motor mounts so that we can actually get the engine to fit inside the engine bay of this car. The engine did come with like the GM truck motor mounts right there. However, the bolt holes of course do not line up to the the engine bay or the chassis of this Mustang right here. So I got to do a little bit of research online and see who sells like a conversion kit or like a motor mount adapter to get this 5.3 into this Mustang. Alright guys, so I know this is a little bit off topic, but I figured why not go ahead and record this just to keep you guys up to date on the Mercedes. As you guys know, I have installed the Rev 9 coilovers here on my car, and we are currently driving it, and I've been driving the car every day for about 3 or 4 days now. And the car actually sits really good right now. I like the way the car looks, so it's currently lowered a little bit with a really thin spacer, and the car looks amazing. But what I'm not in love with is the way the car feels. I mean, like I said, I've already adjusted the preload as best I could. I've adjusted everything on the coilovers as best I could, and I'm still just not satisfied with the way they ride. So what I think I'm gonna do, guys, is go ahead and take these Rev 9 coilovers off my car. I mean, I'm gonna run them temporarily for now, and so my plan is to go ahead and order some OEM struts and couple them along with some aftermarket springs so that I can run a much simpler low ring spring setup. What sucks about it too is the fact that I don't think I'm gonna be able to return these Rev 9 coilovers, because to install these, it's like very uncomfortable, and so you're kind of obligated to beat them up and scratch them up a little bit. It's not like I ruined the coilovers, but I highly doubt that they'll take them back, and I'm not even sure that they have returns. So if anything, I'm just gonna take them off and resell them on Facebook Marketplace and probably take a loss, but I mean, that's just part of the game. Anyways, thank you guys for watching another video here on the channel. I know this one was a little bit all over the place, but I still wanted to put something out for you guys regardless. So I'll see you guys in the next one, and thank you for watching.